Hi everyone, David Aragona here with Craig Milkowski. 3 graded stakes on tap on Saturday at Belmont Park, and one of them that drew a very large field is race 6. It is the grade 3 Matron, a prep for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. This one, though, is for the 2-year-old fillies. A field of 12 signed on, and it's pretty wide open. Let's throw up the field for this race. I've got a lukewarm favorite on the morning line in the number 7 Bubble Rock at 7-2. The number 8 Chi-Town Lady, one of 2 starters for Wesley Ward, is 4-1. But Craig, there are a lot of ways to go in this race.
There sure are. I mean, it's what you got to like about turf racing. It's a big field. As we're going to see, the pace projector thinks the pace will be quick. So for me, these are great betting opportunities.
Now, you did see that David Flores, who does not ride a lot of races these days, is listed on the number 1 Poppy Flower, the other runner for Wesley Ward. And I think that's a signal that maybe Wesley's not going to start both of his runners in this race. I know I saw a quote from him that he might consider entering Chi-Town Lady in the Futurity, which will be carded on Sunday at Belmont Park. So we'll see if there are some scratches in this race. But for now, we're going to talk about her like she's in the race. And let's take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector to see where all of these lightly raced horses are positioned. And I don't think it's a big surprise that one of the dirt horses that's switching to turf, the number 6 Making My Move, is shown on the early lead. Craig, she showed a lot of early speed in her debut, and these dirt horses, they typically are shown on the front end on the pace projector.
Yeah, and it still does depend if the horse actually handles the turf or not, but generally they do pretty well in these spots. It's one of my favorite betting angles, though I didn't pick this horse in this particular spot as I went in a different direction. But yeah, not surprising because that's the way the pace projector is set up. The pace is generally faster on dirt than on turf, even if the fractions don't always tell you that turf's a faster surface.
Start making our way through the contenders, and we'll begin with that Wesley Ward trained second choice on the morning line, the number 8 Chi-Town Lady. Let's take a look at her victory last time out in the Bolton Landing at Saratoga. Craig, this was over a yielding turf course, but she handled the going very well, overcoming a slow start to get into position, and she finished off this race pretty strongly.
Yeah, I personally had absolutely no knocks whatsoever. I did go back and watch the entire replay, and the start wasn't good. And she was just able to make a very long, sustained run, and she ran a decent, respectable 94 Timeform US speed figure, which isn't quite as good as another contender we're going to talk about. But given the trouble she had and the visual impression, I think she's a serious player if she does, in fact, go in this spot.
Do you have any concern about the fact that she won over the yielding turf course last time? And you can see in the Timeform USPPs, that is a turf course that had quite a bit of give to it because it has a 5 track condition rating out of 10. So it was playing pretty slowly. She's likely to encounter a firm turf course on Saturday. So she's going to have to handle a different kind of going. Is that maybe a chink in her armor? Because she definitely is one of the major players.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, you could see the chunks of grass coming up as they were coming through the stretch. We have it rated a 5 on our 1 to 10 scale, which is definitely a yielding course. So it is a concern. The one thing that would allay that fear a little bit is she handled a nice firm dirt course her first time out at Keeneland, won easily. So, maybe a little less trepidation than I normally have for a horse moving the firm turf for the first time.
Let's stick with the Saratoga replays and check out the horse that I pegged as the morning line favorite, but she's a lukewarm morning line favorite at that, and that's the number 7 Bubble Rock. We'll look at her maiden victory in her second start from early September, and she did everything right in this race. Stalked the pace, found a seam on the inside, came through professionally, and she finished off this race pretty nicely in the last 1/8 of a mile.
Yeah, it was a good effort. Another one I have absolutely no knocks. I guess my only real knock is that it seemed to be like just an absolutely perfect trip. The rider did everything right. She did run a big speed figure, the tops in the field on the turf at 104. So I do think she's a player here. I'm just a little bit leery of betting back a horse that got such an ideal trip around the track.
Yeah, I agree. She got a perfect trip in that race. I think you wanted to be on the rail at that point when the temporary rails were down at Saratoga. You could see she was right down on the hedge. But, I mean, she ran a fast speed figure in her debut as well, a race that we're going to talk about in depth in a little bit. last time out, she was facing a lot of first-time starters that finished behind her. We did see one come back to win, I believe, on the dirt at Churchill Downs next time, so that somewhat legitimizes the speed figure that she got in that race. She's trained very well on the Belmont turf course since then. I've watched some of her recent workouts. Really looks like she's thriving right now, and I do believe she's the horse to beat in this race, but she will have to work out another trip again after getting that perfect journey last time. Another horse that I think we have to consider coming out of a Saratoga maiden race is the one that actually beat Bubble Rock in her debut, and that's Lady Danae. She won in mid-August at Saratoga. Let's take a look at the replay of that, and I thought she was really impressive coming down the center of the turf course. Bubble Rock, we saw the kind of finish that she has in her second start, and Lady Danae just ran right by her in this race.
Yeah, that was an impressive performance. She's since returned to disappoint a bit at Kentucky Downs, running off the board as the even money favorite that day. But I don't hold that against her very much. Kentucky Downs is just like another world when it comes to horse racing. I tend to ignore their running lines when horses, be it good or bad, I tend to dismiss them, and that tends to help with the value. You can go against horses that run well there elsewhere, and in this case, you could use a horse like I'm going to that didn't run particularly well over that surface. I was, like you, very impressed with her win the first time out, and I think she's got a really big shot in here.
Yeah, I agree. I think the first out performance is really where she's at. Last time at Kentucky Downs, watching a lot of those races on September 12th, I felt that you wanted to be on the rail that day. We saw the winner of that stakes race that Lady Danae is coming out of, Koala Princess, come right up the rail under Joel Rosario. And Lady Danae, Luis Saez just didn't seem like he ever had an opportunity to get her to the inside. She was about 5 wide all the way around the turn. So that's not the kind of trip you want to get over a turf course that might be biased. So I think you can draw a line through that race. And if she gets back to her debut, I agree that she is one of the major players in here. But let's look at that Kentucky Downs race from September 12th, because we do have the runner-up coming out of there into this spot, and that is Mystic Eyes. She was actually setting the pace in this race, was on the rail early, drifted off it a little bit in the stretch, and you can see there's Lady Danae on the left with those that yellow cap and the yellow sleeves, whereas the winner, who's not in this race, she comes right up the rail. I thought Mystic Eyes put in a gritty effort to hold on for second here, Craig, and she did show quite a bit of sprintability in her debut at Saratoga.
Yeah, it was a good effort for sure. I'm a little leery about the large amount of speed signed on and what the pace projector showed about this race. And, she was on the best part of the track that day for a big part of the race. So I'm not as high on her as maybe some will be, but it wouldn't shock me if she runs well. I'm sure she's going to be part of that pace.
There are a couple of very intriguing fillies trying the turf for the first time in this race. One of those is Mainstay, who was bet down to heavy favoritism in the Schuylerville 2 back at Saratoga. Slightly disappointed that day after a rough start. Then she was fourth in the Adirondack. But let's go back and take a look at Mainstay's debut at Monmouth when she was over a sloppy sealed track. And sometimes horses that have a little bit of turf inclination, they do their best running on the dirt over sealed surfaces. And you can see Mainstay just loving the going here. She's really picking up her legs and striding out well, kind of like a turf horse runs at times. She's by the Australian sire Astern, who's had some turf success in this country. And Craig, I think she's pretty interested in getting on the turf here.
Yeah, she is for sure. I mean, it just depends how she handles it. I like the things you point out that tend to lean that way. I didn't go with her in this spot, but she's certainly shown plenty of ability. She's shown speed. She's been able to sit off the pace, although not in a winning effort. It showed she was able to rate and finish the race off pretty well. So no knocks on Mainstay for me. It's just such a deep field. You can't use them all. So I left her off, but I have no problem with her as well.
Yeah, her Parks-based trainer does not have great statistics switching to turf for the first time. I believe he's 0 for 20 first-time turf over the past 5 years. But like I said, that sire Astern, he recently got the Miss Grillo winner from last week, Sail By, winner to big price. He's had a lot of turf success in his first crop in this country. And while this filly is a half-sister to Vequist, who was a dirt horse, on the dam side, the dam has produced a turf winner that won sprinting. So I think there is some pedigree there for Mainstay to handle this surface. The other dirt horse that's trying turf for the first time is the number 6, Making My Move. As we circle back to the pace projector, she's the one that was shown on the early lead. And Making My Move, I thought, was pretty impressive, winning her debut at Saratoga, Craig. It only came against New York breds, but you can see in this time formula screenshots, she's had a pretty fast pace on the front end and just kept going.
She did. I'm never a big fan of these horses that win so easily first time out on dirt and are right away switch to turf. It to me almost seems like they just couldn't find a better spot because personally, I'd rather see this horse come back on dirt.
Yeah, it's an interesting move. I was watching the Saratoga live show, and John Kimmel in the winning interview was saying that he actually intended to start this filly on the turf, but Louise Sayas thought she had worked so well in one of her gate drills on the dirt that he kind of urged John Kimmel to run her on the dirt first time, and she clearly ran well. But since then, if you look at her workout pattern, she has had 4 straight turf drills over the Oklahoma course up at Saratoga. One of those, she went 46 flat on that Oklahoma turf course, which is just as fast of a drill as you're going to see going 4 furlongs. I can't remember a horse working that fast over that course, except for maybe Got Stormy over the past several years. And she's known as a very good workhorse. So Making My Move has just been tearing it up north at Saratoga over the turf course. So we'll see if she can do it in the afternoon, but she's shown a lot of speed in the mornings on the turf, and she figures to lead these early. Let's throw up our top picks for this race. And Craig, you're going with Lady Danae to bounce back. I agree with you. She's very interesting in this race coming out of that against the bias trip at Kentucky Downs.
Yeah, I think she's all set up to run well. I really do agree with the pace projector in here. I think the pace is going to be really hot. Making My Move was a big part of that because of how fast she has been in her starting and working out. And I just think it's going to set up good for her. And I've also noted over the years that horses that run at Kentucky Downs, even when they don't run well, they do seem to get quite a bit of fitness from it. And particularly being against the bias, I think it's going to fit her well. The other horses I went with were the obvious Chi-Town Lady and Bubble Rock, who both fit this race well if Chi-Town Lady goes here. And for fourth, a horse I'm definitely going to use in my vertical plays because of that pace that I'm expecting is Gallon a Rush, who in the Timeform USPPs has much the best late pace rating, largely because she's cutting back from a mile where she closed. She's going to be pretty far back, but if things get hot up front and she lands in the trifecta at a big price, I want to be on it.
Yeah, I respect the favorites in here, particularly Bubble Rock, who I like among the 2 favorites over Chi-Town Lady a little bit more. But I agree. Lady Danae is very interesting. I, though, put that number 11 Mainstay on top, trying the turf for the first time. A little bit concerned about her trainer's lack of success with this move, but I think there's pedigree here. I like the way she's moved over the dirt, switching to the turf. So I think she could run well here in that 6-1 morning line. If she's in that 6-1 to 8-1 range, I think that's a fair price on her because this is the kind of race with a 12-horse field where some runners could slip through the cracks if they go towards the obvious contenders. Let's look at the Matron on Saturday at Belmont Park. Good luck if you're playing on Saturday.